You're looking for a secret. You've come here because the title promised you one. The number one habit of millionaires, specifically for those of you who have crossed the 50-year mark. You expect a trick, a loophole, a piece of software, a hidden asset class, a specific stock tip. You expect to be told to hustle, or to network, or perhaps to leverage some complex financial instrument. You are hungry for a shortcut because after 50, you are acutely aware that the road is getting shorter. You feel a creeping sense of panic. You are terrified of running out of time. I will tell you the habit, but you will not like it. You will not like it because it is not a shortcut. It is the opposite of a shortcut. It is a long, slow, grinding, boring process. It requires relentless, daily work, and worst of all, it requires you to admit something you have spent your entire life avoiding, that on many subjects you are a complete and utter fool, and you have been a fool for a very, very long time. The number one habit of the truly wealthy, not the lottery winners, not the crypto, kids who flared out, not the Instagram influencers faking it, but the ones who build it and keep it. The Munger types, the Buffett types, is this. They relentlessly, systematically, and painfully purge stupidity from their own minds. That is it. That S the habit isn't T getting smart. The habit is stopping being stupid. You believe that wealth is built by making brilliant moves. You are wrong. That is how fortunes are gambled. That is how headlines are written. Wealth, especially the kind that lasts, the kind that survives recessions and wars and your own bad impulses, is built by not making catastrophic, idiotic mistakes. It is a game of avoidance. It is a game of defense. And as you get older, defense is the only game that matters. The millionaire over 50 who stays a millionaire is not the one finding the next big thing. He is the one who has built a fortress of rationality around his assets, his mind, and his time. He is the one who has mastered the habit of continuous learning, not for the sake of brilliance, but for the sake of not being the sucker at the table. You, on the other hand, are very likely the sucker. You are the sucker because you are governed not by logic, but by envy. This is the great human disease. It is the primary engine of stupidity. It is the default setting of the human animal. You look at your neighbor. He just bought a new boat. He is an idiot. You know he is an idiot. But the boat is shiny and it makes you feel small. You look at your old colleague who retired early. You know, he took a risk you weren't willing to take, or maybe he just got plain lucky. It doesn't matter. It eats you alive. You scroll through the internet, a device you pay for, to look at a feed of curated lies that make you miserable. You see children, literal children, flashing cash from ventures you don't even understand. And the bitterness, the acidic bile of why not me, rises in your throat. Envy is the most counterproductive emotion. Charlie Munger himself called it the stupidest of the 7 deadly sins, because it is the only one you can possibly have any fun with. There is no pleasure in it. It is just pure corrosive self-punishment. After 50, this envy becomes particularly toxic. Why? Because you mix it with regret. Regret is the poison and envy is the syringe. You look at the 25-year-old and you think, I've wasted my chances. My best years are gone. You look at your neighbor and think, he got lucky. I deserve that. The system is rigged. Envy is a liar. It tells you that their outside is better than your inside. It tells you that their curated highlight reel is the full movie. It is an envy engine designed for one purpose, to make you a dissatisfied, reactive consumer. And because you believe this lie, because you let the envy fester, you make stupid decisions. You abandon the slow, proven path, the one that has actually worked, however imperfectly, for decades. the boring path, you decide you need to catch up. And catching up is the most dangerous phrase in finance. Catching up means you take a flyer. You liquidate your sensible portfolio to chase a meme stock because you read a story about some kid paying off his student loans. You invest in your brother-in-law, this absurd restaurant idea, even though you know he has failed at 3 other businesses. You leverage your home, taking real, tangible equity and turning it into a digital lottery ticket. You do this because the quiet, constant pain of envy is greater than your capacity for rational thought. You would rather risk ruin than feel left behind. The habit of the rational millionaire is the active, daily rejection of envy. It is a habit like brushing your teeth. It is a mental hygiene. It is the discipline to run your own race. It is the wisdom to know that comparing your financial life to anyone else. S is an invitation to madness. The only comparison that matters is, am I wiser and more financially secure than I was yesterday? Am I less of a fool today than I was last year? But you don't ask this, because asking this question requires work. It requires sitting down with your own numbers. It requires quiet, solitary thought. It is much easier to just feel the hot, reactive sting of envy and react. This reaction is what keeps you poor. It is what keeps you running on the hamster wheel, convinced that the next spin, the next guru, the next secret will be the one that finally lets you win. The game is rigged against you, but not by the elites or the system. The game is rigged by your own biology, your own ego, your own refusal to accept reality. The habit is to fight this rigging every single day and to understand that envy is the map that leads you directly to the minefield. You have another significant problem, especially those of you over 50. You have fallen for the myth of arrival. You believe that because you are older, you are wiser. You believe that your experience is an infallible guide. You believe that you have earned the right to be comfortable. Let S be clear. Your experience is mostly just a collection of your own biases repeated over time. It is a scar, not a trophy. Your wisdom is often just crystallized dogma, a set of rules you learned in 1995 that you refused to update. And your comfort is a death sentence for your intellect. The world does not care about your experience. The market does not care about your comfort. Technology, culture, finance, and geopolitics are in a constant state of disruption. The rules you learned about job security or climbing the ladder are not just outdated, many are now actively dangerous. But you cling to them. Why? Because it is hard to unlearn. It is painful to admit that a core belief you've held for 30 years, a belief that may have even defined you, is in fact wrong. It is a blow to the ego, and the ego after 50 is a fragile and tyrannical thing. It wants to be right. It needs to be right, more than it needs to be rich or happy. This is the comfort trap. You stop reading, you stop challenging your own assumptions. You start saying, in my day, and kids these days. You surround yourself with people who echo your own beliefs. You dismiss new ideas, crypto, AI, new business models, not because you've studied them and found them lacking, but because they are new, and new is threatening to your comfortable, settled world. You have become intellectually lazy. You have built a soft, comfortable cocoon of your own rightness. A soft mind, just like a soft body, atrophies and dies. The number one habit, the real habit, is the exact opposite of this. It is the habit of radical continuous learning. It is the understanding that the moment you stop learning, you are intellectually dead. You are a dinosaur sitting patiently, admiring your own scales, waiting for the asteroid. The Munger-type mind is not a comfortable armchair. It is a construction site. It is always under revision. It is always seeking an upgrade. This means you must actively seek out disconfirming evidence. You must pay to listen to people you disagree with. You must read books from disciplines far outside your own. If you are in finance, you must read biology. If you are in medicine, you must read history. If you are an engineer, you must read psychology. Why? Because the world is not a collection of neat separate boxes. It is an interconnected web. The person who can only see the world through one lens, the lens of their experience, is functionally blind. They are a man with a hammer, and to them every problem is a nail. This is a path to ruin. The over negative 50 mind must build a lattice work of mental models. As Munger calls it, you are over 50. You think you are done building, you think you are in the preservation stage, but the only way to preserve anything, your wealth, your relevance, your mind, is to remain in a constant state of growth and repair. The world will not wait for you to feel comfortable. The habit is to wake up every day and assume you are wrong about at least one major thing. Your job for that day is to find it. This is intellectually brutal. It requires humility. It is also the only thing that works. This habit of relentless learning, this avoidance of the comfort trap, is the engine. But what does it power? It powers the single most magical force in the universe. Compounding. You hear that word and you immediately think of money. You think of a chart with an exponential curve. A savings account, you are thinking too small. You are thinking like a bank teller. Money compounds, yes, it is the eighth wonder of the world, but it is not the most powerful form of it. The most powerful compounding you have available to you, especially after 50, is not in your gasolinera. It is in your head. It is the compounding of wisdom. Reading one book does almost nothing. Reading one book a month for 30 years makes you an intellectual powerhouse. The knowledge from one book connects to the knowledge from another, and they fuse. They create new insights. The connections start to compound. You have a massive, massive advantage over the 25-year-old. You have a base of knowledge. You have a 30-year head start. Any new piece of correct information you acquire doesn't just add to your pile. It multiplies everything already in it. A 25-year-old reads a book on the fall of the Roman Empire and thinks that is interesting. You read the same book and you connect it to the inflation of the 1970s, the tech bubble of 2000, the political arrogance you see on the news tonight, and the internal politics of your own office. You see a pattern. The book is not a fact. It is a model, but you are wasting this advantage. You are wasting it by watching cable news, which is designed to make you angry, not smart. You are wasting it by arguing with strangers on social media, a place where you are literally paid in dopamine to be a fool. You are wasting it by watching the same movies and telling the same stories. You are not feeding the engine. You are letting it rust. The habit of the wealthy mind is to be a compounding machine. They don't just let it happen, they force it to happen. They schedule time for thinking. They schedule time for reading. They protect this time as viciously as a dragon protects its gold. Warren Buffett spends 80% of his day reading. You spend 80% of your day reacting to emails, to notifications, to the news, to your own anxieties. You are a leaf in the wind. The wealthy mind is the wind itself. This compounding of wisdom is what creates the judgment that leads to wealth. It is not genius, it is not luck. It is the result of a process. It is the result of the habit. When you have compounded wisdom, you see things others don't. Till you see the second and third order consequences of a decision. You see the stupidity in the popular fad before the crowd does. You have what Munger calls worldly wisdom, and that wisdom is what allows you to make one or two good decisions a decade. That is all you need. You don't build wealth by being right every day. You build it by being profoundly right a few times, and by not being catastrophically wrong ever. This connects to another major human folly, a trap you fall into every day. You have an abdication of agency. You are over 50, and you are still blaming. You blame the government. You blame the economy. You blame the system. You blame the younger generation. You blame your parents. You blame the president. You blame your boss. This is the ultimate intellectual abdication. It is the admission that you are a passenger in your own life. It is the most corrosive form of stupidity. The rational mind, the Munger mind, understands agency. It understands that the entire world is a chaotic, unfair, unpredictable system. That is a given. That is the playing field. Blaming the rain for being wet is the act of a child. The habit of the wealthy mind is to draw a very small, very bright circle around the things it can actually control, and to ignore everything outside of it. What can you control? You cannot control the stock market. You can control your savings rate and your asset allocation. You cannot control your neighbor's new boat. You can control your own envy. You cannot control the headlines. You can control whether or not you read them. You cannot control the global economy. You can control your own skills, your own learning, and your own expenses. You cannot control luck, but you can control your preparedness for when luck, good or bad, arrives. All of your mental energy is flowing outward into things you cannot change. This is a total waste. It is mental leakage. It is stupidity. The habit is to be a plumber of the mind, to find these leaks every day and plug them, to redirect that entire flow of energy, that anger, that anxiety inward. Use that anger about the economy to go learn about the economy. Instead of yelling at the television, use that anxiety about your retirement to build a better financial plan, instead of just staring at the ceiling at 3 a.m. The moment you stop blaming, you reclaim your power. The moment you focus only on what you can control, you become unstoppable. But this is hard. Blaming feels good. It absolves you of responsibility. The Munger mind craves responsibility because responsibility is where all the power lies. This leads us to the method of the habit. The habit is to purge stupidity. The tool you use is inversion. The human brain is terrible at solving for X. It is terrible at finding success. It is terrible at finding brilliance. It is much better at identifying failure. It is a world-class failure detection machine. You are trying to be brilliant. You are asking, how can I get rich? How can I be successful? How can I be happy? These are the wrong questions. They are too big. The answers are infinite and vague. The rational mind, the Munger mind, inverts the problem. Instead of asking, how can I get rich, you ask, what are all the things that guarantee I will be poor or lose the wealth I have? The answer to that question is concrete and actionable. How do you guarantee poverty? 1. Get into high-interest credit card debt and stay there. 2. Spend more than you earn consistently on depreciating assets. 3. Chase get-rich-quick schemes. 4. Allow envy and catching up to make your financial decisions. 5. Never learn anything new about finance, taxes, or the world. 6. Suffer a catastrophic health issue without a plan or insurance. 7. Get divorced and lose half your assets because of ego, neglect, or stupidity. 8. Put all your money into one single speculative bet. 9. Be impatient. 10. Blame others for your failures. Now, all you have to do is not do those things. This is the firewall against stupidity. The number 1 habit is to build this list for every area of your life, and then check it daily. How do I have a miserable life? Be unreliable, be envious, be a liar, hold grudges, blame others for your problems, never exercise, eat terrible food, surround yourself with toxic, negative people, never read a book, Just don't do that. This sounds simple. It is the hardest work you will ever do. Why? Because you are doing most of those things. Right now, in small ways, your ego wants to be brilliant. It wants the big win. It finds this avoidance strategy to be beneath it. It is cowardly. It is boring. The graveyard of finance is filled with brilliant, ambitious men who wanted the big win. The compounds of the wealthy are populated by cowardly, old men who just focused on not losing. When you are over 50, your primary job is not to lose. You have less time to recover. A 50% loss does not require a 50% gain to recover. It requires a 100% gain. The math is brutal. It is unforgiving. Your ego is your enemy. Inversion is your shield. The habit is to use the shield every single day. Ask yourself, if I wanted to destroy my retirement today, what would I do? The answer might be, I would panic, sell my entire portfolio because of a headline. Good. Now you know exactly what not to do. This is the habit. It is a constant pre-mortem. You are living in a minefield. It is not your job to find the fastest path. It is your job to find the path with no mines. To do this, you must overcome the single greatest obstacle for the over 50 mind. It is not a lack of opportunity. It is not a lack of capital. It is your own deeply entrenched dogma. The habit of continuous learning has a prerequisite. It is the habit of unlearning. You cannot fill a cup that is already full. Your cup is overflowing with 30 plus years of beliefs. This is how the world works. This is who I am. This political party is good. That party is bad. Real estate always goes up. The stock market is just a casino. A college degree is the only path to success. Hard work always pays off. Whatever your collection of beliefs, they are your prison. The 25-year-old has an advantage over you. He knows nothing. He is a blank slate. He is teachable. You think you know everything. You are unteachable. This is the great paradox. Your experience has become your greatest liability. It is hardened into dogma. The habit of the truly wise is to take their most cherished belief, put it on the table, and take a hammer to it. They must try to kill their own best ideas. Munger calls this seeking disconfirming evidence. You do the opposite. You seek confirming evidence. You read the websites that agree with you. You watch the news channels that tell you what you already believe. You filter reality to match your biases. This is called the echo chamber, and it is where wisdom goes to die. If you are a political conservative, you must force yourself to read with an open mind the most intelligent arguments from the other side, not to own them, not to find their flaws, but to find the truth in what they are saying. If you believe a certain stock is a forever hold, you must spend one day only reading the bear cases against it. You must try to convince yourself to sell. If you cannot destroy your own idea, the idea is strong. But if you refuse to even try, your mind is weak. This is the habit. It is the painful daily audit of your own beliefs. Why is this so critical after 50? Because the world is changing faster than it ever has in human history. The beliefs that got you to 50 are not the beliefs that will get you to 80 financially or intellectually secure. Your political ideas, your ideas about money, your ideas about technology, your ideas about job security, they are all on the chopping block, and you are clinging to the axe, refusing to let it fall. The millionaire mind is not an ideologue. It is a calculator. It is interested in what works. It is interested in reality, and reality does not care about your feelings or your political affiliations. You must be willing to unlearn. You must be willing to say, I was wrong. Those 3 words are the most powerful wealth building tool on the planet, but your ego will not let you say them. Your ego would rather see you go broke being right than get rich being wrong. This is why so many experienced people fail. They are trapped in the prison of their own rightness. They have a sunk cost fallacy of the mind they've invested 30 years in a belief, so they can possibly abandon it now. This is a fatal error. The habit is to pick the lock on that prison every single day. This relentless purging of stupidity, dogma, and envy has a purpose. It is not just to make the money pile bigger. If you are still scorekeeping after 50, if you are just counting your money, you have already lost the game. The purpose of the habit is to solve the final equation, the equation of enough. You are running a race. You have been running it your whole life, but you have never, not once, defined the finish line. How can you win a race with no finish line? You can. This is the trap of more. It is the disease that stems from envy, because you never defined enough for yourself. You are forced to use someone else's definition. Your neighbor gets a bigger boat. The finish line just moved. The guy at the office gets a promotion. The finish line just moved. The index fund goes up 20%. The finish line just moved. You are a ghost, chasing a phantom. You are a slave to a number that always gets bigger. The most important work the habit of rational thought can do for you is to allow you to sit down and calculate your enough number. How much money, exactly, do you need to live the life you want without fear until you die? It is not an impossible question. It is an arithmetic problem. You can calculate your expenses. You can add a margin of safety. You can account for inflation. You can be conservative. You can find the number. The moment you have that number, you have done something 99% of the human race will never do. You have defined winning. And the moment you reach that number, the entire game changes. When you don't know what enough is, your only strategy is more. And more requires you to take risks. You have to keep chasing. You have to stay leveraged. You have to keep playing the game, even when you've already won. The fool is the man who has $10 million in the bank and risks it all, his health, his family, his reputation, to try and get $20 million, which he doesn't need. This is not a hypothetical. This is the story of Wall Street, over and over. This is the story of human nature. The Munger mind, the rational mind, knows the number. And when it hits the number, it stops taking stupid risks. It moves from accumulation to preservation. It gets off the field. It takes its chips off the table. This is the ultimate financial freedom. It is not FUU money. It is I am done. With this money, it is the peace that comes from knowing you are no longer a slave to the game. But you can do this. You are terrified to even think about the number, because if you define it, you might find you are very far away from it. That is a blow to the ego, or even more terrifyingly, you might find you've already passed it, and you are still running the race out of pure, mindless, neurotic habit. The habit of purging stupidity forces you to confront this. It forces you to define the goal. Without a goal, rationality has no purpose. There is one final ingredient, one final component to this habit that makes it all work. It is the amplifier for compounding. It is the ground in which the unlearning happens. It is the reward for defining enough. It is patience. You are desperately impatient. You have been your whole life. But after 50, this impatience takes on a frantic, dangerous quality. You feel time is running out. Because you feel time is running out, you believe you must hurry. You must force things to happen. This is the single greatest mistake you can make. This panic, this need for speed, is the enemy of compounding. Compounding requires time. The exponential curve only really takes off in the final years. The last 5 years of a 30-year investment will produce more growth than the first 15. You have spent 30 years planting an oak tree. You have watered it. You have protected it now. In its 31st year, it is about to finally become a giant, shady oak, and you decide to pull it up by the roots to see if it is working, or you chop it down to plant a faster growing weed. This is the folly of impatience. You change your investment strategy right before it pays off. You abandon your budget right when it is starting to build a surplus. You stop learning about a topic right before you have the breakthrough insight because you got bored. Why? Because you didn't get the dopamine hit of immediate results. You are an addict for newness, for action. The habit of the millionaire mind is not just the habit of learning, it is the habit of waiting. It is the discipline to do the correct thing, and then sit still and let the power of time do its work. This is why Munger and Buffett have always said their preferred holding period is forever. They are not traders, they are not gamblers, they are owners. They are compounders. They buy a good asset based on their rational, inverted, worldly, wise process, and then they go to a steak dinner, they read a book, they play bridge, they let the asset work for them. You buy an asset and you check its price 50 times a day. You are not an investor, you are an addict. You are a neurotic. You are injecting volatility and anxiety directly into your own brain. The market and life is a machine designed to transfer wealth from the impatient to the patient. You are on the wrong side of that transfer. After 50, your relationship with time must change. It is not your enemy. It is not running out. It is your single greatest asset. You have 20, maybe 30, maybe 40 more years. The amount of compounding that can happen in that time is staggering. If you let it, you must have the patience to let your wisdom compound. You must have the patience to let your investments compound. You must have the patience to not jump at the next shiny object, the next secret. That is the ultimate test. It is not just having the habit of learning, it is having the character to let that habit work. It is the patience to let the oak tree grow. This, then, is the full picture. This is the secret. It is not a tactic, it is a philosophy. It is the daily, grinding, boring work of building a firewall against your own worst instincts. It is the rejection of envy. It is the avoidance of the comfort trap and intellectual laziness. It is the relentless, daily feeding of the compounding engine of your mind. It is the reclamation of your own agency by not blaming. It is the brutal, systematic application of inversion to every problem. It is the painful, ego-crushing work of unlearning your most cherished and dangerous beliefs. It is the intellectual and emotional clarity to define enough, so you finally know when you have won. And it is the profound iron-willed patience to sit back and let the entire process work its magic. This is in T, a hack. This is the work. And for those of you over 50, it is the only work that matters. The world is full of noise. Your mind doesn't have to be. If this framework provided any clarity, share it. Let others know the antidote to the hype that is poisoning their minds and their finances. And I am curious, what is the single biggest piece of dogma, a belief you held for decades that you have had to unlearn, or that you are struggling to unlearn right now? Leave that comment below. It is a useful exercise for everyone. The work continues. Keep your journey going by watching the video that appears on your screen now.